Good morning. Now we are driving toward the downtown area of Chicago. Wonderful Lakeshore Drive from Hollywood Avenue all the way down to the Stevenson Expressway. Isn't it gorgeous during Christmas time on this road south along the lake? After taking the Stevenson Expressway, we have now arrived at Chicago's Midway International Airport. As you can see, they have decorated well for Christmas time. Now I am walking to do my airport ritual, which is finding some water and trying to use the facilities. Hello everyone. Good morning. The bathrooms here in the morning are not that crowded. We have a 5:10 a.m. flight from Chicago Midway. It's very early here in the morning, and our gate today is A4A, which is down a long hallway. Now I'm cleaning my hands and getting ready for the long flight, which is only 2 hours, to New Orleans Moisant International Airport. Luckily, I brought my water bottle because there's nothing open in Midway this early, so I fill my water. Welcome to New Orleans. It's just right after sunrise here in New Orleans, and we are arriving at this beautiful airport. Our first stop was Café du Monde. Café du Monde is this really famous cafe in downtown New Orleans. We arrived at their original location. One food item on this menu, which is beignet. Also, they have café lait. After taking in those calories from café au lait and beignets, we are on the road to Oak Alley Plantation. We are now heading toward Metairie, Louisiana, and now we are arriving at the plantation. First stop, the visitor center, to get our tickets to head toward the big house. Now I'm walking through what makes Oak Alley so famous, the live oak trees. There are 28 of them, and they line the walkway, 14 on each side. You might have seen this plantation at some point. It was in a Beyonce video, and 13 Years a Slave. I get to walk down this alley just as if I were the owner back in the 1800s. What makes Oak Alley so special is this house. This house is 185 years old, but those trees, they're older than the house. What's nice is they are beautiful, as so is the house. Again, beautiful landscape. Here, they even have a sugarcane museum. Here's another view of the backside of the big house. Its Greek architecture really stands out. The more ornate, the more expensive for the 1800s. We are about to take our tour in the big house. However, they do not allow photography inside. However, the outside views are just as stunning as the inside. Oak Alley is one of those special places where you can find peace and solitude as you walk under the big oak tree. Remember, the oak trees make a huge arch. Not everyone was fortunate to live in the big house. These are the slave quarters. This first one here is for those that worked in the big house. They got to live in fancier quarters. As I'm strolling through the slave quarters for the big house and for Oak Alley Plantation, I notice this African vibe, which I haven't seen since Tanzania. However, it's interesting to see it here in Louisiana. The first house that we're about to walk into has interesting equipment. It has equipment used for agriculture. The slaves would use this equipment in the fields. This field equipment was hard to use and was the reason for the deaths of many slaves overworking. We're about to walk into the second house, and we're going to find that it's wonderfully laid out with maps and charts of the area. Also in this room, we see clothes that were used for working and for parties that were held in the big house. These clothes remind us of what plantation life might have been like in the early 1800s. And this particular house was very special because it belonged to a slave that the masters found very dear. She did the hair for the lady who lived in the big house. Her quarters were especially laid out quite well. There might have been someone sleeping in that bed for all we knew. We thought there might have been a mummy. Unlike the big house that had all these luxuries, here is what the slaves used for a laundry kettle. Here are some other items they used for everyday life. Notice how rugged they are compared to some of the items you might have found in white homes during this time period. These homes were very rustic, very crude, and not well developed. Here is the water well, and this is where we find the sick house. Slaves would come to the sick house to get treated for a variety of diseases, anything from malaria to yellow fever to worms. If the slaves cannot treat themselves, maybe the ladies in the house would allow them to call the doctor. Medicine at this time was crude, and the slaves tried to treat themselves, many still with African traditions. Now we can see where the slaves even made dinner. No day in Louisiana could be complete without heading to the swamp. A swamp is different than a bayou because a bayou is navigable. Now we are heading on an airboat toward a swamp. Here we can see raccoons from our airboat. Aren't they lovely? They're only here because the people who own the swamp boat feed them. We can also are catching some views of some other creatures, such as an alligator. Maybe you can catch this gator with us. Isn't he cute? I got to hold one. This one is about 1 year old when I got to hold in my hand. One of the most dangerous and invasive species to North America are feral pigs. One guy in Texas decided to introduce the species to North America, and they took off, reproducing by huge numbers. After a long day at a plantation and then a swamp boat ride, we are heading back through the American sector on our way to the French Quarter. The American sector has all these modern buildings, such as mid-rise and high-rise structures. The Superdome is also down here, and is the home to the New Orleans Saints. The Saints have played in the Superdome for a very long time. As we head back to the French Quarter, you can see the difference in the architecture here in the American sector. The French Quarter was originally settled by the French, and then by the Spanish, and then by the French. We are now waiting for our Uber on the banks of the Mississippi River. Now, dinner with gumbo. Please subscribe and thanks for watching. Day 2 next.